Color mode. Adobe InDesign CS4 has various color modes in it, such as RGB, CMYK, Lab, and Swatch colors, which contain various color channels. RGB mode is used by computer monitors to display colors. RGB color mode uses 3 channels, and they are R for red, G for green, and B for blue. CMYK color is used for printing. CMYK uses 4 colors, and they are C for cyan, M for magenta, Y for yellow, and B for black. Lab color is a light-based color mode that uses luminance L combined with green to red A plus yellow to blue B. A swatch is a color that has been defined and is stored in the Swatches palette. Swatches can be included in spot or process colors. A spot color is a special pre-mixed ink that used instead of or in addition to CMYK process inks, and that requires its own printing plate on a printing press. A process color is printed using the combination of 4 standard process inks such as cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, CMYK. Process colors are assigned by CMYK links. Mixed inks are created by mixing process colors with 1 or more spot colors. Let's now try changing the color mode of this polygon object in our document. Keeping the polygon object selected, let's click on the color panel and choose its flyout menu. Here we see a tick mark in the RGB mode. This indicates that the color applied to the object is an RGB color. The color intensity value ranges from 0 to 255 for all 3 channels. When all 3 channels are in 0 values, it displays a black color. And when all 3 channels are 255 value, it displays a white color. By mixing the colors together in various ways like this, we can create around 16.7 million colors. Now, to change the color mode of the object from RGB to CMYK, let's select the CMYK mode from the color panel flyout menu. We can now see the color applied to the object getting varied in our document. Although CMYK is a standard color mode for printing, the exact range of colors represented here can vary depending on the press and printing conditions. The color intensity value ranges from 0 to 100 on all 4 channels. To get pure white, all 4 components need to be kept at 0. To get a pure black color, all 4 should be kept at 100%. To apply lab color to this object through the color panel flyout menu, let's select lab color. Now select a color through the lab spectrum. When the selected color is out of the color range, you'll see a gamut warning icon. This color icon indicates that the color is inside the gamut. Now when you click the warning icon, you can see the color is replaced. Please note the color mode can also be changed using the Color Picker dialog box. Thus, when you're clear with these color modes in InDesign, you can easily create different types of swatches colors with various color mode combinations inside our Swatches panel, which is the central headquarters for all of your document colors. Fill and tint swatches. We can play with colors in InDesign by using the color panel, and that's what we're going to do in this lesson. First of all, let's open the color panel by going to the Windows menu and selecting color, or you can just press F6. This opens a color panel, which is quite simple. All that we have here is the fill and stroke icons. Below this, we can see 2 more icons, such as Formatting Effect Container and Formatting Effect Text, through which we can apply color to an object or text. Next to these 2 options, we can see 3 color bars of RGB color mode. The color bars option varies according to the color system or color mode that we choose from this flyout menu, such as RGB, CMYK, or Lab mode. To add color to the object, let's first of all select this rectangular object from the page. This object is already applied with a swatch color, so the color panel displays a tint bar. When we click in this bar, we can apply different levels of tint by making use of the tint slider. To add an RGB color to this object, let's change the color mode to RGB in our Color Panel flyout menu. Now, by adjusting the color parameters in the RGB bar, we can select our desired color, just like this, or through this RGB color spectrum when we select our desired color for our object. And now you can see our object filled with an orange color. Please note, when we place the cursor on a color spectrum, the cursor automatically changes into an eyedropper tool. We can also apply color to an object or item through the Color Picker dialog box. Let's now double-click the fill icon in our color panel. This opens a Color Picker dialog box. Here, through the color spectrum, we can select our desired color. Adjusting the color slider will help in controlling the brightness of our selected color by using this color slider triangle. Once when we have chosen our desired color, let's click OK. The object is now seen filled with our selected color. The colors selected from the Color Picker dialog box and Color Panel's color spectrum are said to be unnamed colors. To save or add this fill color to our Swatches panel, let's right-click the cursor in the fill icon. This displays an option called Add to Swatches, or we can go to this flyout menu and can choose the Add to Swatches option. The selected color can now be added to our Swatches panel. Once, when a color is added to our Swatches panel, the RGB slider in this color panel gets changed to a tint slider, and the tint of the color will be reduced in the color panel by using the tint slider, as you see now. Please note, selected tint colors in the color panel can also be added to the Swatches panel by using the Add to Swatches option. Always be careful while dragging and dropping the color from the Swatches panel to an object fill. By mistake, if you release the mouse button on the edge of the object, you'll apply the selected color to the object's stroke, but not to its fill. Advanced Stroke Options. In InDesign, we can add stroke color to an object, graphic frame, and text in a number of ways. For example, stroke can be added by using the stroke icon, present in the Swatches panel, Color Panel, and Tool panel. The border or boundaries of an object or text are referred to as stroke. This tutorial will explain to you how to add stroke and stroke features to an object. Here in this document, we can see a rectangular object with a solid fill and stroke color. To increase the stroke weight of the object, let's open the stroke panel from the dock. If the stroke panel is not displayed, then let's go to the window menu and select Stroke, or simply press F10. This opens the stroke panel, which contains various stroke features, such as stroke thickness, style, stroke alignment, and so on. Let's increase the stroke weight to 10 points by using the Weight drop-down list. If needed, we can also enter our desired stroke weight value inside this text box. Using these three align icons, we can specify the location of the stroke relative to our object edge. Now at present, the stroke alignment is center-center. So half the stroke weight is outside the path, the other half is inside. To align the path completely inside, we can make use of the Align Inside icon. Stroke can also be aligned completely out by conversely using this Align Outside icon. The type of stroke can be changed from a solid line to open type stroke by using this Type drop-down list. Now currently, we have selected a stroke with Open Type Stroke Effect, so a set of custom gap options are seen displayed at the bottom of our stroke panel. To fill the gaps with color, we can choose a color from the Gap Color drop-down list. Likewise, the tint of the gap color can be reduced by using the Gap Tint slider. The endpoints of the stroke can be changed by using the caps icons. Butt ends the stroke in a square, and it's a default setting for a plain stroke. To make the endpoint of a stroke rounded, we can use this rounded icon. Finally, projection ends the stroke in a square that extends out from the end point. Below the caps option is the joins feature, through which we can control the corners of our stroke. The three join settings applied to strokes are miter, round, and bevel. To learn the use of these options, let's select this open path from the document by using the Direct Selection tool. The selected path is controlled using miter join, which contains two sharp joins. Here the miter joins the segments at an angle. Miter limit control is available only when you use the miter join style. When we reduce the miter limit value, we can see the sharp join segments getting converted into blended edges. The next icon is the round join, and that helps us in joining the segments with a curve. To make these curved segments beveled segments, we can make use of this bevel join icon. Instead of curves, the segments are joined using lines. The next option that we're going to talk about here is the dash and gap options. To highlight these two options, we have to select this rectangular object which contains an open type stroke style. Presently, the distance applied between the dash and gap is 12 points, so there's an equal amount of distance between the dash and gap applied in our object stroke. If we type a value in the gap field as 5 points, immediately we can see the stroke effect getting altered in our object. Here, the dash added to the stroke is 12 points, whereas the gap is just 5. Thus, by using these dash and gap options, we can create different types of open type stroke effects. The dash and gap corners applied to an object, graphic frame, or text can be adjusted by using the options present in the corners drop-down list. Two more options that we have left in our panel are Start and End. To learn about these two options, let's draw a line using the Line tool below this rectangle. Then let's add a Start and End style for the line by using the Start and End drop-down list. The selected styles are added to the line. To see it more clearly, let's increase the stroke weight of the line to 4 points. And now we can see the added effect very clearly on our line. Here's a tip: any fill or stroke color displayed in the fill and stroke icons can be added to an object just by dragging and dropping the color onto a desired item. In InDesign, you can even have the option to save your favorite custom stroke styles or load them from other InDesign documents by using the Stroke Flyout panel's Stroke Styles options. Most of the time, we don't want the stroke panel for all jobs, but when you need it, it's good to know that those features are there. Swatches Panel. In InDesign, the Swatches Panel is the central headquarters for all our document colors. These swatch colors can be applied as fill and stroke color to any object or text on our page. Using the Swatches panel, we can create and name swatch colors, gradients, and tints. The shortcut used for this is F5. Let's now watch how to create swatch colors in InDesign. Now before that, let's open our Swatches panel from Dock, and here you can see a list of swatch colors already displayed. To create a new color, let's go to the Swatches panel flyout menu and select New Color Swatch option. This opens a New Color Swatch dialog box, and here the most important option that we have to choose is our color type. The color type can be either a process color swatch or a spot color swatch. Process colors are a breakdown of CMYK colors that are cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Whereas the spot color is a special color that is used in a printer, which will mix like Pantone colors. Now let's set the type to process color. Then, using the color mode list, we can select a color mode from our color as Lab, CMYK, or RGB. By adjusting the color parameters in the CMYK bar, let's select a color. The preview of our selected color will be seen visible in this area. The CMYK color values of our selected color can be seen displayed in this swatch name field. Instead of the color value, to assign a new name for our swatch color, let's deselect Name with Color Value checkbox. Then in this name field, let's enter a name as Border Color. To add this color to our Swatches panel, let's click the Add button. Immediately, the selected color gets added to our Swatches panel with its assigned name of Border Color. Here in this Color Mode field, instead of choosing any of these three modes, we can choose a color library from this list. For example, this Pantone Pastel Coated. Once the option is selected, the whole color library of that gets listed here, which can be seen by using this scroll icon. When we select Pantone Blue 0821U from the list, the name of the selected color gets displayed in the swatch name field and this search field. Please note, if you know the number of a specific library swatch that you would like to locate and use, then simply enter its value in the search field. Once we click the OK button, the selected Pantone color gets displayed in the Swatches panel. To edit this created swatch color, we can either right-click the mouse on the swatch color and choose Swatch Options, or can go to this panel flyout menu and choose Swatch Options. This opens a Swatch Options dialog box through which we can make our required editing. Once a created swatch color is applied to various items in our document, thereafter we can make any changes to that swatch color will affect all the items to which the swatch is applied. By using the Swatch panel, we can also create and add new swatch gradient colors. To open the new Gradient Swatches dialog box, let's go to the Swatches flyout menu and choose New Gradient Swatches. This opens a dialog box which is similar to that of the New Color Swatch dialog box. The gradient ramp is the extra feature added in this box, and we'll discuss the gradient color and gradient swatch colors in our next lesson. Another tip for you: by reducing the color opacity, you can create a new tint swatch color by using the New Tint Swatches option from the Swatches flyout menu. In InDesign, you can also save your swatch colors listed in the Swatches panel by using the Save Swatches option. These Save Swatch colors can be loaded into your document by using the Load Swatches option, and you can find these two options in the Swatches panel flyout menu. So it's time for you to try saving and loading swatch colors inside your InDesign document. Gradient tools. Another way of filling an object or text with fill or stroke in InDesign can be done using the gradient colors. Using the gradient panel, we can fill an object with more than one color, through which one color gets blended with another. Now, gradient is nothing but a blend between one shade of a color to another. In InDesign, we can create gradients by two different ways. The first is through the gradient panel, and the second is through the swatches panel. Let's now see how to create a gradient blend using the gradient panel. To open the gradient panel, let's go to Windows menu and choose Gradient. Now from the page, let's select this rectangular object. To apply a default black and white gradient to this object, let's click our cursor on this gradient slider. The object is filled with the default gradient, and two gradient stop icons can be added to this slider. To change this black and white gradient to a colored gradient, let's click the cursor on the first gradient stop. Then through the color panel's color spectrum, let's select a color. The selected yellow color is seen displayed in the gradient stop, as well as in the rectangular object in our page. Then let's select the next stop icon from the gradient panel, and you can double-click the fill icon in the tool panel. This opens a color picker box. Here, let's select the red color and click the OK button. Now we can see the object filled with yellow and red gradient blends. While we click the cursor below the gradient slider, a new gradient stop gets created. Let's fill it with a color through our color panel. Similarly, we can add one more stop and fill it with a color by using our color panel. Through this way, we can create a gradient with multiple colors by increasing our gradient stops. The midpoint of all these colors can be adjusted by dragging these midpoint icons. A note for you: clicking and dragging down the gradient stop icon in the gradient slider helps in removing or deleting the stop icons. Now, there are two types of gradients: linear and radial. Currently, the object is filled with a linear gradient, which is a line form. To change it to a circular type, let's select the radial type from the type list. Now we can see a circular type of gradient displayed in our object. Let's now set back the type to linear. Below the type option, we can see an angle field, through which we can control the angle of our gradient. Here, let's enter a value of 90 degrees, and then click Enter. The angle is now seen changed in the object. To reverse the gradient colors, we can make use of this reverse icon. This helps in reversing the gradient color in our object. To change the gradient color to a swatch gradient color, let's first open the Swatches panel from the dock. Now let's drag the gradient icon and drop it into the Swatches panel. And you'll notice our gradient swatch added into this panel. Angle of the gradient can also be adjusted using the Gradient Swatch tool. From the tool panel, let's select the Gradient Swatch tool and click and drag them into the object. As we do so, the angle of the object gets varied each time as we click and drag. To create a gradient using Swatches Panel, let's select the New Gradient Swatch option from this Swatches flyout menu. This opens a dialog box where most of the options are kept de-highlighted. Once, when the cursor is clicked on the gradient stop of the gradient ramp, the option gets highlighted. Now let's remove the middle two stops just by clicking and dragging down these icons. The gradient ramp is now filled with yellow and red gradient. The gradient type can be changed from linear to radial, and then let's click the Add buttons so that the gradient swatch gets added to our Swatches panel. In the Tool panel, below the Gradient Swatch tool, there is one more tool called the Gradient Feather tool, with a shortcut key of Shift and G. By using this tool, we can make the applied gradient smoother in our document. Now, I'm sure by this time you've obtained a clearer idea as to how to use the gradient tools, gradient panel, and gradient swatches inside your document. Also, please remember that created gradient swatch colors can be edited using the Swatches flyout menu's Gradient Options command.